How's everybody doing today? Daniel here, Mr. Cuervo Racing. Today I wanted to talk about why I do not like turbochargers on the Raptor 700. Why some people say that I hate them, and they might be right. Um, there's some goods and bads. There's some benefits. There is a lot of negatives, in my opinion. Of course, this is my opinion, being in the field and working on multitudes of different styles of bikes and racing everything that's been out there, naturally aspirated nitrous or turbocharged for the last 10 years or so with the Raptor 700 platform. Basically, I have a pretty great dislike for the turbochargers on the 700 platform due to several reasons. The first is they're too complicated. You have too much stuff going on, additional coolant lines, additional oil lines, all the additional plumbing and components. So that means you have a lot higher rate for failure. You have a lot higher rate for having maintenance issues, as well as more expensive repair costs due to additional labor. Of course, if you're doing the labor yourself, then that can work out and takes a lot of time. But basically, I've gone away from really working on turbo bikes in general due to the time. You can't really charge the proper labor time to get a job done. If a bike comes in that needs a head gasket, that would normally take, say 3 hours of labor time. All of a sudden you're at 12, 13 hours of labor time to do a head gasket. On some of these kits are really crammed in there, and you got to take everything off to get to what you want to get to. So that's not the case for all the systems out there. I'm just saying in general, the ones that I've worked on and seen, to the point where I no longer I'll take a motor out, but I no longer put those kits back on, and don't want to be married to one of those machines forever. So I do motor work for guys. I do work for their engines that are turbocharged. Definitely not scared of doing that, but I don't want to be married to a bike that's gonna be very high possibility for issues. So that's kind of one of the main reasons why I don't like them. The other reason is to get to the same performance as a naturally aspirated bike. So let's say you have like an 80 horse naturally aspirated bike with a 734 or 800 cc kit on it with a decent head and stuff. To get to that same performance as out on the sand or in the dirt on a turbocharged engine, you're going to have to make up above 100 horse, which means you're going to be pushing all the components inside the engine and the drivetrain that much harder. Another 20% of stress on all those components to get to the same level. And the reason why an 80 horse naturally aspirated motor runs different than a 100 horse turbocharged motor is because of how and when the power comes on and the additional weight that a turbocharged system adds to the bike. So you're dealing with two things. And in the automotive side of things and in the side-by-side portion, turbocharging, the additional weight does not make that much effect on total performance. But on a bike that's 400 pounds stock and you're adding another 35 pounds of crap on there, that's a pretty big difference in weight. So as you go down, as you're able to lighten up bikes and make them more drag oriented, weight becomes a big factor, and it becomes more of an issue. The lighter you go, the more important those pounds are. So that is one of the reasons why 80 horse naturally aspirated and 100 horse, 110 horse turbocharged, that's why they fall into the same speed going up the hill or down the road or dirt. Power to weight ratio. The other thing with turbocharged engines is all these guys advertise, oh, there's no boost lag. It comes on right away. And some of the kits out there have gotten a lot better where they do come in quick. But they are still limited to load. Even on the anti-lag, it's not getting them there 100%. You're still leaving the line with less power than your peak power, or less power than your potential, because you need the load on the engine to spool that turbo. And that also happens with inconsistency of power output. If you're hitting a bump or shifting if you don't have an override, you're losing boost on shift. So really you're coming in and out of load on the engine, and that's affecting your boost and how well that turbo is spooling. So those are the two main components. The other thing that goes with that is on a turbocharged bike, you're leaving at a lot less power. If you have a 100 horsepower turbocharged bike, when you're leaving the line in second gear, maybe you're leaving at 60 horsepower. You hit third gear, that boost comes in, starts pulling pretty hard. You get up, you're in the 80 horsepower range as boost is able to grow. And then you get into fourth gear, and then you finally see full boost, full potential of where you're at. But at that time, you've given up so much that it equals out to the same. You left at 60, you gave 20. In third gear, you're about the same. And in fourth gear, you're making back the 20 horsepower you gave away in second gear. So that's normally how that works. There is a potential to push a lot more boost and to overcome that. But in general, a lot of guys think that they're going to bolt on a kit and be 100 horsepower and go smash on everybody, and that's not the case. So they say the next thing is price. So you can build an engine, 80 horsepower range, $4,500 roughly, and go up from there, naturally aspirated. Most of the turbocharged kits, they're $3,000 for a real base kit, $4,000 or so for a kit that can handle more boost, dual injector kits or whatever they like to call them, and fancier options. So the problem with that is they say, well, the turbo guys, they always say, well, this kit costs this much and gets me to this horsepower, and a naturally aspirated kit gets me to this horsepower for the same dollar. They're the same. And that's not the case, because what they fail to realize is when you're doing a naturally aspirated build, you're building upon internal components of the engine already. You're upgrading the crankshaft, upgrading the clutch basket or transmission as you're putting that money into that engine. You're upgrading valve springs and those components as well to handle more stresses, more RPM, and do it for some longevity. Well, on the turbocharged engines, they say, oh, the kit only costs this much, but they fail to calculate in the cost of doing a crankshaft that'll live, doing transmission upgrades, doing the clutch basket upgrades that'll live at that horsepower level. Same thing with drive chain and components there. So it doesn't equal out. You can't just look at the cost of the kit. And they say, well, I can turn up the boost, is what they say. I can turn it up. Okay, well, you put a turbo kit on a stock engine, and yeah, it can make 85 horsepower, 90 horsepower. Some up to 100 horsepower they're pushing them. Well, that's already not safe on that engine. You're already well past what that crank was designed for, and you can't just turn it up and expect it to live. So that's another thing. So all the guys that want to push harder, they all come back to basically building an naturally aspirated engine, or doing all the same components, doing a crankshaft, doing turbo, doing valve train, doing porting, doing big throttle body, all those same components, as well as the cost of the turbo kit and the complication there, to get just a little bit more out of them, when they could really eliminate all that, simplify, do a little bit more engine wise, and be much better off, in my opinion. So one thing I didn't talk about yet is the failure rate of the turbochargers themselves. So some of the kits have a really small turbo. They're a very basic, off-the-shelf turbocharger. The smaller ones tend to live longer, and this is because you're taking a turbocharger that was engineered for one specific application, a specific turbine size, a specific turbine RPM, and using it in that application. So as these guys are modifying the turbos to increase performance or spool time, adding larger impellers or turbines, and going bigger there, they're taking the reliability out of the turbocharger, and you see a lot of failures. Most of the customers that I know and deal with that have had turbocharged bikes, they rebuild that turbo once a year. I've seen guys go through, they get 2-3 rides out of them, and the turbochargers are ready to be rebuilt. So that really depends on how you use it. Ultimately, the turbos do not like loading and unloading. If you got a turbocharged generator, you got a turbocharged diesel Ram or Duramax or something, in that application, yeah, it's an awesome application. But in the off-road application, especially with shifting gears, you're on and off boost constantly. So you're loading and unloading that turbo with boost pressure, but also with exhaust pressure and pulses, and that's what creates the maintenance issue. So that's why I don't like them. If you agree, if you disagree, comment if you want. If you're interested in learning more about turbocharged applications, my buddy James has a channel called Turbocharged, and he focuses a lot of information on the turbocharged application, tuning, power commander setup to work properly with boosted applications. So check out his channel. It's called Turbocharged. He just changed the name of that channel from what it used to be. But that's kind of my gripes with turbo bikes. Why I don't like them. Why I don't want to work on them. We kind of really forgot and didn't talk about one of the major issues is inconsistencies on tuning, where the inlet air temp, a lot of these kits don't have intercoolers, or they put an intercooler in an orientation where it acts as it doesn't get any airflow across it. It acts as a heat sink. Buried under the seat is real common. There's no airflow passing through that intercooler. It's just acting as a heat sink to soak up some additional heat and then dissipate it when you're off boost, but it's not acting as it's not active in its configuration and orientation. So what happens is as that intake air temp heats up, you start losing power, obviously, and the tune changes. So the air is less dense when it's hot. So you have a density inconsistency issue. So you can still be running the same boost, but not as dense of air. And the temperature changing ultimately makes a substantial difference in tuning. So you get real erratic tunes, with the factory ECU being limited on its ability to make changes, as well as the power commander stuff does. You'll see in those videos from James, there is some potential to combat that, but ultimately that's a issue that most guys will come with a very generic basic controller, and they're over there pushing the button on their dash all day long, trying to get the bike to tune right, to throttle in right, to not go lean or go too rich. So it's just one more complication in the application that causes inconsistency. And if you're okay with that, and that's something you like, just screwing with stuff and not having a consistent bike, then maybe that's for you. If you want to say, hey, I got a turbo, and you think that's the best thing around, or you just want it for the sake of saying, hey, I have a turbo on there. But if you're out racing, sometimes you don't get second chances. You don't get a second chance to race a guy who's going to potentially talk smack to you all year because your bike popped or sputtered, or you couldn't get it on boost right away or something like that. And the same thing with the natural aspirated bikes. You make a bad pass, that could live with you for a while. Somebody can give you shit for a while, and they have, and I haven't been immune to that. We've had our times where we made a bad pass, or the jockey raced somebody when the bike wasn't set up all the way, and you just got to live with that. But to go out and race a turbocharged bike and have all these inconsistencies just leaves you really open to a lot of people giving you shit. And all the turbo guys say, oh, I was on low boost. Okay, well, I lost because I was on low boost. I didn't have it cranked up. Well, if you got a turbocharged bike, you better crank that shit up all the way when you're racing. I don't want to hear no low boost. Oh, I was only at 8 pounds. Well, yeah, take your 8 pounds and get out of here. Come race when you're turned up all the way. Same with the nitrous kit. Don't go out with your nitrous kit and say, oh, I had the bottle off. Nobody's going to believe you. Nobody cares. They think you're full of crap. So if you're going to have a bottle, crank it up all the way, or don't go racing. I don't know what you're doing piddling around like that. It's a waste of everybody's time. And it just ultimately looks like you're a liar at the end of the day. Same with boost. If you're going to go race, if you're going to go line up and race anything decent, then you need to be pushing it what you can, pushing it to the limit, because that's going to live with you. So that's about what I have to say about turbocharged stuff. Like I say, we do sell components. If you have a turbocharged bike, yeah, we can still be friends. I don't have a problem with that. It's just laying it out there. A lot of guys call me and ask me this question, and it's a long conversation to have and to deal with. So that's why I'm making this video about this, to kind of get my opinions out there so people can watch and see what I have to say about it. There is guys will bring in, oh, what's the fastest Raptor in the nation? Yes, a turbocharged Raptor 700 does have the fastest 300-foot pass around. Yet it is only a few hundredths quicker than the fastest naturally aspirated bike around. So the difference of margin there is very, very, very small. This on 300-foot racing, I would put money on running those bikes naturally aspirated versus turbocharged, in the consistency of how you can run on motor versus the turbo passes all day, every day. I'd bet on the natural aspirated bike, even having a slower ET on it, because of the consistency. We can run that number all day long. So this year we're looking to get that naturally aspirated bike back on top with the overall fastest 300-foot pass, and we're looking to do that. Not something we have to. Yeah, you're underdog not having a power adder on it, but that's where my faith lies in naturally aspirated power. It's always there when you push the throttle. You're not waiting for it, especially trail bikes. Oh my God, the trail bikes. Guys build these bikes. Oh, I'm gonna go trail ride my Turbo Raptor. It's terrible. You're trail riding, you're going along, you come on some whoops, and you want to blip the throttle and get up over some whoops, get on top. Well, you can't. It's not there, the power's not there. When you crack that throttle, you have to wait. So it's just terrible for the application. Same with, you're taking 35 pounds of extra stuff and you're shaking it all around while you go down the trail. So you're adding so much more components that can fail or come loose or leak or have an issue with, and that's the constant thing. Trail riding and turbocharging. You guys really need to reassess what you're doing with the bike and what you want to do with it and your ultimate goals. But no such thing as free lunch. No such thing as free magical, I'm going to get 100 horsepower and beat everybody. It all comes with a price. And that price might be your time and your frustration and your aggravation and ultimately your pocketbook. So that's all I have to say today. Like I said, check out James' channel, Turbocharge. If you're at the end of this video, if you're still interested in turbocharging your Raptor 700. That's it for now. Have a good day.